Hi everyone, John here, and today I've got a brand new Runoff Groove pedal to share with you. This is the Britannia. It's the redesign of their English channel, and it's an AC30 top boost channel emulator. It's got a master volume, gain, Brilliance, which is the treble cut after the preamp section, bass control, which is just your standard bass cut, and a treble control, which works like the top boost channel's treble control, where it cuts bass and boosts the treble and upper mid-range as you turn it clockwise. I'm on the lead channel of my amp with a low volume, clean setting, fairly flat tone. The El Capistan's in the chain, but it's off at the moment. I'll be adding some delay later. And I'm going to start off with all controls on the Britannia at noon. Here's the bypass. So just a little bit of distortion with the control at noon. If I were using hotter pickups, it would distort a little bit more. But if you roll off the gain and/or your guitar volume, this one cleans up very well with your guitar. It's still got those kind of compressed, sort of sticky cleans that I associate with Vox clean. A little bit more throaty than a Fender because it's got more mid-range. And it retains treble really, really well. I'm just going to put the Brilliance control all the way up. And bypass. In terms of actually whether it's really cutting treble, this one does a really, really good job of retaining treble, which is not something I can say about a lot of distortion circuits. And even with that, it doesn't feel like the distortion gets fizzy or really out of hand with this one. I'm going to bring the gain up to about 2 o'clock here, and boost the treble just a little bit, bring some of the bass back in, and leave the cut where it was. And I'm going to add some delay on an 8th note setting. So yeah, it does the crank thing really well. I'm gonna just bring the gain all the way up, and it gets nice and creamy. It still has a very natural decay to the distortion, so it still feels touch sensitive no matter. I mean, even with the gain all the way up. really messy, but but yeah, I mean, I really like how the gain control is very well managed. Part of that is just the entire topology of the circuit is a lot like the Azabachi. It's got a little bit of distortion added in each stage rather than just overdriving the FETs. So it's got a little bit of diode distortion, a little bit of transistor distortion. This one's got something that wasn't in the Azabachi, which is really cool. It's got sort of like a fake power tube section where it's LEDs and a feedback loop of an op amp, kind of like a tube screamer a little bit, followed by the cabinet simulator in the second half of that op amp. And the cabinet simulator just simulates the frequency response of the cabinet. So one thing, this does have a very slight bass cut, even with the treble and bass all the way. Even with the treble all the way down, so that's the most bass, and the bass cut all the way down, so that's the most bass. So I'll just switch back and forth. And I really don't know if this is the sort of thing that'll translate between, in a YouTube video. But just in general, the bass is tightened up a little bit, and I'm not really sure if that's entirely due to the coupling cap after the first transistor stage. Like I said, this one emulates the top boost channel. If you want to emulate the normal channel or the jumpered channels, I assume you can do the same mod that was in the English channel, which is just change the coupling cap after the first stage. I'm gonna put the treble almost all the way up now and leave the bass in, bring the cut back a little bit. So this has a really mid-rangey type feel, almost like running a treble booster into it. About the treble control on this is that depending on what kind of guitar you're doing, you can get very different sounds. So that can kind of make a humbucker or a Strat sound a little bit more like a Telecaster. So there we go. That is the Britannia by Runoff Groove. I know I say that the Azabachi is my favorite overdrive, but this one is also pretty darn spectacular. I think the overall distortion characteristics of this one beat the Azabachi. I kind of like the simplicity of the Azabachi, and a little bit more, just the EQ is a little bit more like what I want here. But really great low gain settings in this, but also really great high gain settings in it. I didn't run a booster through it right now, but it does take a boost really well, and still has the same sort of kind of high headroom feel where it doesn't just over compress or over distort right away. I will talk about a couple things. I did build this one as close to almost exactly the way it was in there. I didn't really make any mods. I did leave space on my layout for an input cap just in case I got switch pops, but I ended up using optical bypass, which was this optical bypass board was by 1776 Effects, and no switch pops, which is great. Usually I really struggle with that with any sort of true bypass circuit. I did make one really minor change in this, and I sincerely doubt it's the sort of thing that anyone would ever notice. I noticed that if I turned all the controls all the way up, I was getting oscillation, especially with a Strat. So I killed the oscillation with a very small bypass cap in the second gain stage. That's the only change to the circuit I made. Otherwise, I did manage to squeeze it into a 1590B. Like I said, I'll share my layout for that. It's a little less sensible than than the other layouts you're likely to find. This one used fixed biasing, and I just tested all the transistors before I stuck them in there. But otherwise, faithful to the Runoff Groove schematic, and all the voltages are correct. So yeah, definitely build this one. I really highly recommend this one. Thanks for watching.